All right, guys, what's going on? Welcome back to the Everything College Football Podcast. Today I'll be doing my preview and prediction for the Jimmy Kimmel LA Bowl, Fresno State and Washington State. 1-point line in favor of the Bulldogs. Saturday, December 17th, 3:30 p.m. Eastern Time on ABC. Location will be SoFi Stadium in Inglewood, California. And then Wazoo leads the all-time series 3-1, last winning in 1994. Looking at the Fresno State offense, this is a completely different unit since Jake Haener came back injured early on in the year. There, I think it was 1-4, lost to UConn, got hammered by USC. It was just a very, big bump for this football team when he was not out there. Logan Fife did not play very well. Haener, 6-0, 37 points per game in his return, 72% completion rate, 2,600 yards, 18 touchdowns. Now Fresno State is the Mountain West champions. This is just a crazy season for Fresno State to start off so poor without their quarterback. He comes back, and man, we all knew he was one of the best in college football, but he certainly, carried this football team to new heights and, of course, a crown in the conference. So 79 receptions, 1,044 yards for Jalen Moreau Cropper. Nico Ramingo right behind him with 69 grabs, 768 yards, 5 touchdowns. Zane Pop, 46 grabs, 560-plus yards. Eric Brooks, 34 for 331. I mean, they're pretty deep. And then Josh Kelly, of course, he's also really good. He was injured for most of this season. I'm not sure if he's going to play in this game. Probably not. Looking at, the backfield, Jordan Mims, 1,100-yard rusher, 16 touchdowns. He's been around a long time, made the most of his opportunity here at Fresno State. Malik Sherrod right behind him, 404 yards, 2 touchdowns. 125 yards on the ground per game for Fresno State. This is an offense that's really good, especially when Haener comes back. They have plenty of versatility. Osmar Velez at guard, a phenomenal pass blocker, one of the best in the conference. The rest of the unit, not as polished. But, again, you look at this unit, they've been flat out phenomenal since Jake Haener came back. They have some nice balance. The numbers might say otherwise, but, of course, those are just incredibly skewed. Over the last couple weeks, they've been very good. The running game isn't exactly the best. They've only had a handful of games over 150 yards, against some weaker opponents. They even had -3 against San Diego State. So the running game's not all that. Jordan Mims still found his way to 1,100 yards, and he scores a lot of touchdowns. That's all that matters. He's very efficient when he's getting the rock. So very good offense for Fresno State, and they're red hot right now. Looking at the Washington State offense, Eric Morris coming over with Cam Ward from Incarnate Word. Thought he'd do wonders for this unit. I think they had some really good talent. They just really weren't able to put things together this year. 28 points per game, 375 yards per contest. Cam Ward, 6'2", 220, great size, and he's going to be around a long time. 3,100 yards, 23 touchdowns, 8 picks, ran for another 5 on the ground. The biggest problem for Washington State coming in this game is 2 of their top 3 receivers have entered the transfer portal. Donovan Ali, Dejon Stribling, 40-plus receptions for the both of them. Robert Farrell, another one of those Incarnate Word guys, he's still here, 46 grabs, 517 yards. And, they're pretty deep at receiver. I'm definitely worried about some of those guys and Stribling and Ali leaving because of, the lack of playmaking that might arise from that. But Renard Bell, he's played plenty. He's been around a long time, one of those Mike Leach guys. Leighton Smithson's been getting on the field a lot more as of late. And Lincoln Victor, he was a starter, I believe, last year. If not, he played a lot, So this is certainly an experienced unit, even though they have 2 of their top 3 pass catchers departing. Nakia Watson, 736 yards, 8 touchdowns. Jalen Jenkins, about 6 yards per touch when he spells him. So, less than 4 yards per touch for this running game, mainly because Cam Ward takes a lot of sacks. This offensive line is not very good. Jarrett Kingston, I think he's had a very solid season. Grant Stevens has been good at times in pass protection, but for the most part, this offensive line, incredibly poor, give up, a lot of negative plays. And just that's the biggest reason why they can't score points. Their lacking of playmaking now is certainly going to be a problem. They've only lost 16 turnovers this year. It's pretty solid number, I would say. So I do think this Washington State offense gets worse heading into this game, losing 2 of the top 3 pass catchers, potentially even more as, the days click down before this game. Washington State, a very exciting offense. I love Cam Ward. I think Eric Morris and him, they're going to have some special things going for the future. But for this game, respectively, I'm just not sure how they were able to perform. Again, 119th in college football in sacks allowed. It's just not a very good total. And then you look at a Fresno State defense, it's going to look to take advantage of that. 20.5 points per game, 351 yards per contest. Lavelle Bailey, very good linebacker in the middle for them, 83 tackles, has 6 pass breakups. Mekhi Langley in the secondary group, he's been great, 62 tackles, 2 picks. This is a defensive line that I think is really impressive. You look at David Pearls, he's been around a long time, 15 tackles for loss for him. Leonard Payne Jr., no, they're not as deep as they were a season ago, but I think they've certainly, not fell off as much as you probably would have anticipated. 72 tackles for loss as a team, 24 sacks, 10.5 of those are by Pearl, so they really don't have much of a pass rush. But I'm not sure if that's really going to, play in the Washington State's favor with how poor their offensive line has been. I certainly think that, even though they only have one star pass rusher, I don't think that that's something the Washington State's really going to be able to take advantage of. In the secondary group, Morris Norris, he's been great. Matt Lawson up front for them, another guy that's really good. Johnny Hudson. I think they're pretty deep on the defensive line. Again, I don't think they're as great as they were last year. Cameron Lockledge at corner. LJ Early, safety. Some really good players for them. Braylon Lux, he's been a heck of a blitzer for them whenever he's been playing. So, Fresno State, top to bottom, they have a really good defense. They're pretty sound. I definitely think that, the lack of pass rush could hurt them in this game. I don't think that is likely, especially with some of these injuries, Lux being one of them. When he was on the field, he was good for them. That's a guy they don't have coming off the edge. So we'll see what happens with this pass rush. I think, for the most part, though, there's not going to be too many advantages they can take advantage of here for Washington State, just, with the two receivers departing and, the positives the Fresno State defense has. So I don't think that Washington State's really going to be able to take advantage of those. But you look at their defense, really good unit. Coming into the year, I was very excited for this football team as a whole, really because of the experience they got back on the defensive side of the ball. Ron Stone has not had the bestest of seasons. But, you look at their middle of their defense, they've had some really good efforts from some of these guys. Deion Henley, 106 tackles. He's been really a stat sheet patter for them. 12 tackles for loss, 4 sacks, 3 forced fumbles. This is a guy that really has been playing good. Francis Mialaga, linebacker as well. Brandon Jackson, the emergence. It's been pretty shocking. 11 TFL, 5 sacks. He's a guy that played a lot for them last year as a starter. Quinn Roth, though, and Andrew Edson have been the guys that have stepped up instead of Ron Stone. He was an all-conference performer a season ago. This is a defense that, 267 pass yards per game allowed. That's certainly a weakness. This secondary outside of Cha Smith-Wade has not been good. Armani Marsh, I think, has given them some good quality reps as well at times. But after that, there's not too many guys you're going to rave about in this secondary. It's not very good. And they're facing a red-hot passing attack coming into this one. So I do think their best opportunities, they're going to have to get some pressure on Jake Haener, 112th in FBS and pass defense. And this is a defensive line. It's got plenty of experience, plenty of depth. Christian Media, a bigger guy in the defensive tackle position. I certainly think this Washington State defense can carry them to a victory in this one, but it's going to certainly be hard. Looking at the final thoughts on the prediction, I think keys to the game, Fresno State, the pass rush will need to find some work, and then attack the middle of the defense. It's been a big weakness for Washington State. Not as much for that pass rush now that 2 of those guys have opted out. I think for Wazoo, get pressure on Haener, which is certainly possible, like what they have up front, and then win the secondary. I'm not sure if that's going to be possible or not. And then find some pass protection, which is going to be a more daunting task now that 2 of the top 3 pass catchers are gone. But, this offense is still going to flow the same way. They're still going to have the same play calls. They still have some guys out there that have played plenty of reps this year. So it's next man up for Washington State. But I definitely think that's certainly going to affect them. Regardless, though, 35-24 for me. I'm taking Fresno State to win this one. I just think that they're going to have too much for the Cougars' offensive line. I also think they're going to have too much offense in this one. I think just the biggest weakness of this defense is the secondary, and that's obviously not a great matchup for them, even though, the front 7 has been, exceptional for them at times. I just see being too much offense here. I think they'll have just enough balance to get by, and Haener's going to have a lot of big plays. He's really going to light it up. I'd put some big-time confidence points on this one. I think Fresno State, 6-0 since Haener came back, make it 7-0, cap off the year. It's going to be a fun little game in Los Angeles, though, especially if this Washington State defense starts to play lights out. Could be a really good one. So make sure you guys like, comment, subscribe. See you next time.